And thank you so much for joining us, ROH sickos. How we doing? It's midnight on the East Coast. It's 5 a.m. SP3's time. But if ROH is for anything, it's for the sickos, right? We are here. We've got so much to talk about. But before we dive in, we want to thank you guys for being here. We know it's a late one. We know you were also out there supporting our SmackDown post show. We know you've got Collision tomorrow. You've got Battle of the Belts, which they forgot about too. There's so much going on in the wrestling world, but we ask you to please leave a thumbs up on this video if you would be so kind. We also invite you to get in your super chats. We don't have humper chats tonight, so just super chats if you would. But we're going to talk all about this pay-per-view. SP3, we say it time and time again. It's like the blessing and the curse of ROH. These pay-per-views always over-deliver. Everybody says that was incredible. See, we don't have to worry that much about the weekly programming. And then we sit here and we complain about the weekly programming every week for a while. But hopefully renewed efforts coming out of this one. We know that the scrum is going on right now. I thought this was a home run basically from front to back. There were a couple of things that felt like maybe they could have moved to the pre-show, or maybe we didn't need them here to condense that card a little bit. But what were your thoughts on what we got tonight? I thought this was a home run of a pay-per-view.
I've never seen a company who gives us weekly content that is comparable to Velocity in the 2000s, in the late 2000s weekly, and then it's NXT Takeover when it's a pay-per-view. This was takeover quality from front to back. And I said it on Twitter, I'll say it here. It was a wrestling buffet, a wrestling smorgasbord, as far as you got every type of wrestling you can enjoy. You had, if you like technical wrestling, you had Yuta versus Lee. If you like a bloody brawl between two women, you had Diamante and Leyla Hirsch. If you like more story-driven matches, you had Billie, Starkz, and Red Velvet, and then you also had a story-driven but yet high quality in ring work with Athena and Queen Aminata, and then it closes off with a bloody old school Terry Funk-esque main event title matchup with Mark Briscoe putting in an awesome performance against Roderick Strong, who was just game, the perfect person to put against him on this show that had the crowd still bumping. If you want a house show trios matchup, that I messaged Kate, I was like, this is the first matchup on the whole entire show that I was like, this could have been on the pre-show. Yet This crowd was amazing the whole night. My MVP for this show was this crowd. I literally tweeted out this as well. We need to stay in Arlington forever. If we're going to get this type of crowd for the TV and the pay-per-views, stay in Arlington for the rest of Ring of Honor, because it just felt like old school 2010s Ring of Honor with this crowd.
SP3 really, really did. And there were some surprises tonight, some things that were a little bit more predictable, but you said it really well. I feel the same way. When AEW is at its best, they are giving us this buffet of wrestling. I tweeted about halfway through this before we even got to the back half of the car. Male models, pure wrestling, women's deathmatch. Oh my. You had such a buffet of styles, and also nothing that repeated. This is when I get frustrated with AEW cards a little bit, is sometimes they'll scratch the same itch twice and they don't necessarily need to. So I feel like today we kind of just touched on everything in its own really unique and special way, paid homage to some history of Ring of Honor in here too, and we got a couple of surprises. We're going to dive in and go match by match here, but I did want to jump in off the bat with some things that kind of were a bit of a shock to me, and I think to you as well, based on our prediction show that you can check out on True Heel Heat podcast if you want to see how accurate we are. And based on our conversations yesterday, I don't think we saw Red Velvet winning. I think that was probably the biggest surprise of the night. I'm not mad about her winning by any means. It was a really fun match. She's earned it. She's a different wrestler than she was pre-injury. In a really special way. The story was well built. My only complaint is Billie Starkz had 0 title defenses going into this, but that being kind of the biggest shock of the night did also tip off that Athena would probably retain, because you and I had talked about the story of maybe Athena loses and goes after Billie. I think we might be going the opposite direction here now. My dog not having any of it.
He said honor no more.
Oh my gosh. Huge Billie Starkz fan in here. My God. Are you okay, little girl? My goodness. It was not as dramatic as it sounded. I promise you that. She literally just like sniffed a wire and a bunch of things came crashing down. But she did not want Red Velvet to win, evidently. Poor Daphne
Pissed.
Butts. What
Pissed.
did you think of kind of the big upset of the night? I feel like.
Yeah, like we both predicted the Lee Moriarty winning the pure championship, but that surprised me. I was like, whoa, I didn't, I predicted it, but I didn't expect it to happen when that happened. And then back-to-back matches, you have then Red Velvet get the win, and I'm just like, wait, what? Like, I was like, I was kind of like you. Like, I was like, damn, Billie couldn't get a real run. Like, give her at least a title defense on TV. Like,
On the
that's why
inaugural belt. Like this
on
is
the
the first we have seen a champion with this belt. And SP3, like, if she's just going to keep beating a bunch of independent talent in proving ground matches, why weren't they title defenses then? The outcome was inevitable anyway. So yeah, I'm with you. That part frustrated me, but I was very, very surprised by this.
Yeah, I mean, I predicted Red Velvet back a couple of years ago should have been the person to dethrone Jade Cargill for the TBS championship because they had that kind of story that they
Baddies,
had
baby.
from when Jade started. They had the feud, and Jade beat her in her first tag team matchup and first singles matchup, and then they faced in the TBS title tournament, and then they were a part of the Baddies together. And I thought it would be appropriate if she was the one who finally dethroned Jade. But I have no issue with Red Velvet, just like you, winning the championship because she has been so improved, been on Ring of Honor so often, and she deserves this opportunity. I just wanted more for Billie, but I think the result of what we saw in the Women's World title matchup is really setting up for Final Battle. 1 year in the making, Billie goes for Athena once again for the Ring of Honor Women's World Champion. And Billie, it really feels at this point that Billie needs to be the person who dethrones Athena, and that will get the most out of Athena with the long-term story that they've told.
It's a very, very long-term story. So it needs to pay off because it felt like such a weird left turn that Billie didn't win the first time. I get that Athena has been the stalwart of this brand, man or woman. She has carried this brand through everything with the reboot, through all of our complaints, through all of our booking annoyances. She has been the most consistent thing on this show for the entire inception of it, basically. So really, really great work by her. We're going to get into all of that and more. A lot more of you are watching now than were at the beginning of the show. So we appreciate that support so much. And we will ask you to leave a thumbs up on this video. We will ask you to send in lovely messages like this. Women's wrestling, says Doc Mueller. I didn't have any problems with my honor club tonight, but he is normally Bleacher Report IT. He knows how to fix every app. So just be sure to DM him. It's definitely not annoying at all if you have any issues with anything. But Tim McFowle saying essentially similar here. Ladies' night, yet again, Diamante and Hirsch with some beautiful gory self-mutilation. So happy for Red, and someone should tell Athena and Aminata that this isn't real. Standing O for our forever champ. Meat loves buffets and smorgasbords from Meat Normus. 6.9 out of 5 in the Tokyo Dome. Nice.
I love it.
Nice. And we've got Evil Diva becoming a new member. We thank you so much. There are some perks on being a YouTube member. Especially, I think interviews are the big things that get clipped and uploaded there. But we're going to dive in just a second here. We thank you guys for tuning in. Seeing those numbers go up really makes my heart happy, as it's 12:10 Eastern, 5:10 SP3's time. But we will remind you to also subscribe to FightfulSelect.com. So much going on over there. News about Beth Phoenix. I would not mind seeing her and Athena go at it. My gosh, that's a dream match for me. That broke on FightfulSelect.com, or at least was confirmed by FightfulSelect.com. More updates on the Warner Brothers Discovery deal. That's coming down the pike, and a whole lot more. Tons of more contract news and some big ones. I'm telling you guys, this is not over. But FightfulSelect.com was where you could first read about the signing of MXM to the ROH brand. They had their first appearance tonight. They opened the show for us. And we get MXM versus Serpentico and Angelico. This was a blast. There was so much posing, SB3. There was so much, just so much. So much serving in this match as the MXM Collection finally debuting here on Ring of Honor. I'm so happy for these guys. They are so talented. And what was funny to me, SB3, you said at the beginning of this show that the crowd was so hot, but they weren't at the very beginning. At the very beginning, they were ice cold. And I was like, uh-oh, if it's this way all night, that's going to make for a really long day. But sometimes during the 0 hour, that just happens because people are still filtering in. We're just getting underway. But MXM, the more this match went on, you started to feel that crowd loosen up. You started to feel them be, dare I say, sports entertained by some of this. These poses were incredible. I popped huge for Serpentico posing right into a drop kick from Mansoor. That was a really, really fun spot. And Mason just like, with those big boots, I said a while ago, like everyone's going to be surprised by how big this guy is and the way that he works. But like, it's one thing to work like a big guy. It's another to pop ass while you're doing it. And my God, he did both. We got a Summer Rae tribute in this. This was incredible.
Yes. Shout out to Summer Rae.
Shout out to the legend Summer Rae. We love that. Love, genuinely, like such a great way to get the show started. And also, you know, these free agents showing up somewhere signed. That's a good thing to put on the 0 hour to draw some interest. These pay-per-views are included with Honor Club, which is a nice perk of having Honor Club. But you still want people to jump from YouTube over to Honor Club. So I think this was a smart move to start this off. Angelico's great. Serpentico is as good, if not better, at John Cruz at doing his role of things here in Ring of Honor. But we got this chat saying, I love when MXN touched tips.
We got to touch tips. We got to touch tips. There we go. We're touching tips.
That's
touching tips.
That's the tips. Mansoor also confirming that they did touch tips with Tony Khan. So there you go. These wholesome boys. Nobody was more excited than my mom, who this is her favorite tag team of all time. She loves them. And we did not show her their cheeky vignettes of recent, but when I told her they won, she was very, very excited. And she just decided that they seemed like such nice boys and they deserved to be on this pay-per-view, was what I was told over the phone yesterday. Which is amazing because she does not give a shit about wrestling at all, but she thinks they deserved it. And darn it, I say so too. Very, very fun. Loved the theme as well. What a gem from Mikey Ruckus. This like power EDM, this power electropop thing. Very, very cool of like very high energy with some guts under it, but still very like sexy and sleek. So what did you think of our opening match? And will you strike a pose for us?
Yes, I will.
Oh, we love it.
This was really, really fun. I really enjoy how they're able to kind of use the gimmick within the matchup. And I was quite impressed because I haven't seen a lot of their independent work for like DPW. Saw a little bit of their, over them over in Uganda. But this was my first time really experiencing them in like a full matchup. And man, Mansoor is really smooth in the ring. He looks really good. Looks like he had a bunch of energy. And Mason Madden, man, he was just moving in that ring, the height of fashion. He was just a monster, but at the same time, he was very athletic and moving around the ring briskly. So I really enjoyed this opener to the show. And their finisher it's violent as hell. It's like a spike double arm DDT. That was great stuff. I was waiting to see it because you talked about it, that they weren't able to use their finisher in WWE, but seeing it here, it was a lot of fun. This was a nice way to introduce them. And then an even better way was the post match interview where they got the honor of getting Melissa Santos, the newest addition to AEW and Ring of Honor, her first interview, and it had to be with MXM dropping a whole bunch of acronyms throughout the whole promo.
It was so good. I'm so glad that you mentioned the finisher because I was going to bring that up. It's called the centerfold, and it's one of my favorite things that I've ever heard on their stream. They were like, everybody on the indies is so surprised by it because we never got to do it in WWE. Like, they never were close enough to even get a near fall in WWE matches. But they do win with that fantastic finisher here. It is violent looking, and it's kind of nice because like right at the end of the match, or as they would say, the climax of the match, double entendre not intended at all, you get something that's like, hey, we have these like very big personalities or whatever, but like reminder, we're hard-hitting badasses and we're gonna put you away is like a nice thing to have just with some intensity behind it. But you brought up that they're going to be challenging FTR on Collision, and it was giving me IDK, my BFF Jill flashbacks for that commercial from forever ago. But they go through a bunch of different initialisms and acronyms here, talking to Melissa Santos backstage. They say that DAX is in need of a fashion makeover more than anybody here. So,
and they said they ATE.
They did ATE.
They did ATE.
Whew. Killed it in there, but
Cash is all right. Cash is all right.
Cash is all right. He has potential. He has potential. Yes. He's got the Riz, but Shea Monster saying MXM Collection about to take over Fear the Rim. That's right. FTR stands for Fear the Rim, but wonderful, wonderful opener. We're not going to spend too much more time on the 0 hour, but that was a major development. We do also get the Infantry defeating Griff Garrison, and I almost said Joe Hendry. That's where it's 12:15 and
Anthony
he's
Hendry,
everywhere. Anthony Hendry.
I was
Henry
like,
in this.
They just put two tag teams together. It was like the Workhorsemen and Maria's boys just got smushed together. Oh, we didn't mention
your partners
that Maria came out after MXN's victory, which was interesting. So I don't know if they were setting up something with Maria's boys in MXM, or is Maria gonna drop her boys and get with some real men?
That is the question. I'm glad you brought that up too, because I was gonna smoosh all of the Maria stuff together, but let's talk about it right now. Maria has been facing some serious health issues, and it was so great to see her back here tonight. This upcoming match has Cole Carter is injured, right? JD Drake is injured, so they took Griff Garrison and Anthony Henry, and they smushed them together for this match against the Infantry. So we see Maria. I don't know if she was scouting as talent of her own, or if she was scouting as talent to face maybe Griff Garrison and someone else, but I guess we're going to find that out. But she does come into play in this match a little bit as well. But we have the Infantry winning here with the boot camp and some good stuff in here. Griff Garrison, really nice snap suplex in this. He just feels to me like someone that with every rep gets better and better, because it almost feels like there's just this assuredness of himself that he's continuing to grow into. And when he really hits moves, they look really impactful. Like, it looks kind of standard when he doesn't, but when he like snaps someone like he did in a snap suplex today, that rules. So I loved seeing that. But this was another one that it's like, what is this all for, man? Like, we don't have contenderships for these tag titles right now, really. So that was kind of my complaint with Top Flight, and the Outrunners too. We'll lump all this together, but another match that was fun. Dante dives onto Floyd in what looks like an F5, but the camera kind of cut away weird, but finishes Magnum in this. There was like a little sex pose, which I assume is an MXM call out. I don't know what else I'm supposed to assume, but these are just kind of like fun matches that worked just fine, but it is kind of like, where's the contendership stakes with these, right? Like, let's get the tag division meaning something again, and let's have clarity around whether Top Flight is a trio or a tag team and go from there. So I liked both these matches. I have no complaints about them, but they just felt like they were there to show out in the card, and all the performers in them were great. But like, can these guys get some title shots, please?
Like, honestly, I would say everything outside of MXM on this pre-show, I was just like, this is why my dream job is not to work in creative for AEW or ROH. It's to be a proofreader for the script and the schedule of ROH and A. I think that's all Tony Khan really needs. He needs a proofreader. And if he gave me the card and it's like, oh, this is the pre-show, I would have been like, okay, Marina Shaffir getting a squash win, put that on ROH TV on Thursday. Top Flight and Outrunners, ROH on Thursday. Mishmash Tag Team versus Infantry, ROH on Thursday. And then take the Von Erichs Trios matchup, put that on the pre-show, 2 matches on the pre-show, call it a day. All right, Tony? Thanks. You're welcome. Where's my check?
I feel like that would be good. The thing with the 0 hour too is I feel like in ROH lore, it historically has been a lot of superfluous matches, but they would be like Tony Deppen and Cheeseburger or whatever, and you would be like just watching a clip. You'd be like, I don't care that this has no stakes. This absolutely rules. And not that these guys didn't pop off, but like it would be kind of like extra, like kind of next level. And we've seen a lot of these guys face each other before. Anthony Henry, now that hopefully we're going to have a pure division again, I think is an interesting one that while JD Drake is out, him working his way up a pure division might be something that's kind of cool. And Griff Garrison just getting reps almost the same way Lee Johnson was, of like, let's just get them some matches under their belt, I think would probably be a good way to go. But Maria was messing around in this SB3 a little bit. What do you kind of see going on? Because that's not a tag team. That's we got thrown together for this pay-per-view tag team, right?
I really wouldn't mind, since we did get confirmation that the ROH 6-man tag team titles are still alive. We got it back in the divorce. We only get to keep one of the kids in the divorce, and we got to keep the 6-man tag team titles. What if Griff Garrison gets a makeover and he joins up with MXM, and that's what Maria is doing? Maria is trying to put another M in MXM.
Griff Garrison? Not mad about it. Not mad about it.
Come on, we were talking about a Dalton trio with MXM. Why not Griff? Give Griff the opportunity to show a different side of himself, get a makeover, put him with MXM, and they go for the 6-man tag team titles.
I think that is a really fun idea that I never would have thought of. Looks like the scrum is live. I did get a message from Jeremy saying that Tony Khan thought that this was one of the best pay-per-views that they've had. Pay-per-views always show out, man. Pay-per-views always show out. So looks like they're starting with Mark Briscoe, Ian Riccaboni moderating. Clutch move. Very clutch move. But we will keep you posted on things. I'm actually going to send Jeremy a quick message before we get going. I'm going to see if we can get a Leyla Hirsch update for you guys. Because I couldn't tell if she's just good at her job selling or if she really went down, but it looked like that ending really took something out of her. And the other moonsault did.
Yeah, the replay showed that she hit her arm on the way down on the finished moonsault. So hopefully she's all right, because man, those two women just went out there and just put their bodies on the line. And can I just say, one of my favorite moments of the whole entire night was the thumbtack chancleta. That is
we're definitely going to talk about that. Because that was one of the most clever things that I think you could have done. So
that was the Pokemon evolution of the thumbtack sneaker.
That's very well played. Very well played. But we have a chat from Adelia. What a beautiful name, Chamberlain.
Yes.
I always think of like Amelia Bedelia, but it's Adelia. Were you subjected to the Amelia Bedelia books? I don't know if boys liked those, but girls did.
I've heard of it.
Oh my gosh. Iconic Amelia Bedelia. But another ROH pay-per-view delivers yet again. Love the ladies showing out tonight. Happy for MXM. Crowd was great, and so was the Infantry's X-Men gear. Yes, it was. That was not pre-show gear, y'all. That was main card gear for sure, but they're great. I would love to see some sort of advancement. Like, I really liked their feud with the Outrunners if you want to do title adjacent work with them, but they should be doing stuff, because the amount of in-ring ability in Riz is it's off the charts.
And maybe they are teasing something, because they had Top Flight kind of interrupt their celebration. I know it was the easy way to transition from one match to another, and they gave each other pounds, but maybe we see them interrupt Top Flight on TV, and you can do something there, a non-title feud between two popular teams, and the winner eventually gets a tag team title shot.
I think that would be neat if there were stakes on tag matches. I think that would be delightful. But you mentioned this too. Marina Shaffir commits homicide on Angelica Risk with the mother's milk. In her time off, I said she's been at the Britt Baker University for finding the hard cam because she stared into my soul at the end of that. But that was our 0 hour. We're going to swing into the main card, guys. Get those super chats and humper chats in. Thanks for being so generous to us so far. Scrum is going on. We'll keep you posted with updates if anything super relevant comes through. We appreciate everybody on our editorial team doing work, but Jeremy, I'm sure, has to write like 16 MXM headlines today because they gave us so much material in such a short time. But holy hell, did we start off the main card with a match that should be starting off a main card, because I was into this so much. Commander versus Beast Mortos. I saw an incredible tweet that summarized this, which was Joe Holbert saying, sick match that also included one of the funniest missed dives I've ever seen, which is just about it. Both parts were equally as memorable because that missed dive is that memorable. It was iconic, but wow, did these guys show out. Beast Mortos just so different than anybody else in wrestling, especially in the lucha scene. To me, there was a sequence in here where we got Commander reversing a backbreaker into a crucifix driver and then spinning into a Canadian destroyer, and Mortos just shrugging it off and spearing him, and they are both down. And I was like, that's the perfect microcosm of this match, because saying it's like agility versus strength ain't enough. Their chemistry was fire tonight. You eventually have Mortos winning with the pile driver. But we talked about this a little bit. They kind of have a luchador in a story problem. These luchadors always show out, no matter if it's Vikingo, whether it's Commander, whether it's Beast Mortos. But none of them are in really meaningful stories. Beast Mortos versus with Beast Blanco as a tag team is something that Alex Pulowski pitched, and give me that immediately. Like, that feels perfect to me. But just really special work from Beast Mortos, showing why he's one of the best in the world at this. Such a fun way to kick off the show. Commander is so good at making everything lucha not feel superfluous. Like, it never feels like he's doing a rope walk for the sake of doing a rope walk. It's always with like intent to win the match. And that's sometimes where everybody's welcome to like what they like. I'm a Tekker sicko. I love it when things are intentional and everybody's always trying to look like they win the match. That ain't always the lucha way. Sometimes it's very flippy do. And that works for a lot of people. My former co-host Reg is the biggest enthusiast of it ever. But to me, Commander's the best at following in that like Rey Mysterio pattern of, yes, everything is super acrobatic and cool, but I'm always trying to win a match and inflict damage with it. So I had a blast with this opener. What did you think?
This was a lucha libre spot foo, in the words of Reg, spot foo greatness. This was just craziness. You had a springboard into a poison Rana. You had multiple Canadian destroyers. We got Beast Mortos with my favorite move in his arsenal. It should be his finisher. That gorilla press slam from the top rope. I'm sorry.
Disgusting.
But he pulls out a freaking Gonzo bomb to get the win, the Beast Driver, where he just picks him up and just drops him on his head. So that was a great finisher too. And I was actually kind of surprised that Beast Morto won this one, because I'm used to Beast Mortos having these great matches like he did with Darby Allin last week on Collision, but losing in the end. And I wouldn't have been surprised if Commander had won. And like midway through this matchup, I was like, yeah, this doesn't have a story to it, but it feels very Ring of Honor. Because
yes.
if you were a Ring of Honor fan in the 2010, there was always one match that was just out there because the two guys were going to have a great matchup, and it didn't have any story to it, didn't have any storyline, didn't have any stakes, but it was just, you knew that these two guys were going to go out there and have great chemistry with one another, and this one was it. And what you said about Commander is true. Now, I felt for a while, especially when he first came to like AEW, that Commander was just doing like 87 rope walks in a matchup, which it got a little too much. And he had to, I think someone told him like, just do it one time, just do it for the dive, and that's all. Do it for the dive and do it for your finisher, and that's all you need to do. And he's figured that out, that you need to do it where it has intent and you're doing it for a reason. That flip dive was crazy. The misdive was legendary. Him getting thrown into Alex Abrahantes because Alex is just sitting there, standing there as he just got caught on the dive. It was so much stuff in this matchup that I was just like, well, that was crazy. Okay, moving on. Let's go to the next spot.
Abrahante's face was unbelievable on the spot you just were referring to. It was incredible.
This was a blast.
This was a blast. This was a blast. And I think that what you were saying about Commander too, very different in one-on-one versus like, here there's 5 of you, go show out. I feel like then we were getting like a bunch of rope walks and stuff. Like one-on-one, when it's like you could at least build an in-ring story rather than it being a spot fest. He's reined in it a lot, and I love it. I love getting to see that. That was a very, very fun way to start this card. But guys, keep those super chats coming. There's almost 2,000 of you sickos watching at 12:30 Eastern. I appreciate you guys so much. We're going to have updates from the scrum. So far, kind of just business as usual. I'm sure we'll get more information once we head into the Tony Khan exclusive part of the scrum. But for now, we dive into our tag title match, The Kingdom versus Ishii and Kyle O'Reilly. This was a really, really good match. I can't stress enough how great and versatile Mike Bennett is in, this sounds kind of harsh, but it's not untrue, like a somewhat directionless product. Like, he can work with anybody. He can work in any circumstance. He'll always make them look good. He'll look good in the process. This was not really built on anything but a history. Like, there was not a present day story there. Like, Kyle O'Reilly and Ishii were fun, but they aren't a real team. So that still gave me a hard time buying into it. KOROH absolutely rules, though. I'm not mad about it. Kyle O'Reilly kicking around Ring of Honor is amazing. His facial expressions when he got to the ramp, I'm just like, I love him. He's such a silly goose. And Ishii getting the bloody titty treatment out here like Jericho. My God, these guys and like creeping into their 50s, they're getting a little beat up in the chestal area, but we ultimately have your tag champs retaining here, of course. I did appreciate that they kicked out of the Proton Pack once, because it at least added suspense as far as a near fall goes. But it was pretty great. I just got an update from Jeremy saying that Athena likes the movie Sandlot, so he's keeping us posted on the most important information, which I appreciate so much. But SP3, throwing this over to you. Not a lot of seeds of doubt about who's going to retain here, but we do have this kind of like overarching conglomeration versus Undisputed Kingdom thing brewing. What did you think?
Yeah, I think if they can, I think this should continue after the show, even though it kind of was kind of bookend the show with conglomeration versus Undisputed Kingdom. It gives you good to great matches, and this was a very good matchup that over delivered in my eyes. I wasn't feeling the finish too much with Don Callis coming down and Kyle Fletcher, where Don Callis distracted the referee while Bennett had the roll up on Kyle O'Reilly. And then O'Reilly just gets up to hit Kyle Fletcher, and then Bennett low blows him to get an inside cradle. It was just like, I was confused. My brain almost like had a malfunction, and I was like, well, what just happened? Like, why did he distract the referee if Bennett was getting a roll up? Like, he could have got the job done without any of Kyle Fletcher distraction now. But hey, here we are. But that was the only kind of nitpick that I can give this matchup, because it really over-delivered. The crowd was into it. I love the fact that, like, I think a couple of minutes into this matchup, I was like, oh, this is great, because Ishii's finisher is the vertical drop brainbuster, and O'Reilly used to do the kick part of the Chasing the Dragon. I was like, they got to do it. And then they did it. I was like, yeah, Chase the dragon. Let's
We
go.
manifest all over the place. SP3. I love that for us.
I
But
was like, yes. I was like, Red Dragon. I'm a huge Red Dragon fan. The only thing that would have made this better if Ishii and Kyle O'Reilly came out to, their theme song, the Red Dragon theme song, which is still a classic for me as a Ring of Honor fan.
sure.
But that left with Bobby Fish, but it's okay. So yeah, this was a very good matchup, a very good tag team title match, and like I said, this was different from every other matchup on the card, which was the big plus, the big positive of the show overall.
Agree with you there. Also, Ishii, of course, a third of the age of Bobby Fish, so just great to see his youth showing up here. But loved Ian Riccaboni referencing as well the he can't be neck strong, he doesn't have a neck, was like that part of Matt Taven's promo cracked me up, and I love that he put an exclamation point on it today. The commentary always the strength of Ring of Honor for sure.
What's crazy to me is that like Bennett, I've seen him since he started in Ring of Honor, and he was like the reason he got heat is because he wasn't like the best in-ring worker. And now he's one of the best in Ring of Honor, like you said, that can work with anybody. But I like the fact that he's in this tag team with Matt Taven, who brings more of the character, and he is like a consummate heel in the matchup. Like he's talking his crap. I'm Matt Taven and getting the heat from the fans. So they make the perfect team and a perfect heel tag team to hold these ROH tag team titles. We just got to work on challengers, creating the challengers, building them up. You got TIE Flight there, you got Infantry there, you got MXM. This show overall gave you like a bright future for the Ring of Honor tag team division. They just have to capitalize on it afterwards.
I am so frustrated by what's happening in the multi-man merged pictures. It drives me crazy what AEW does inconsistently with freebirding the titles and whether they actually are one title or two or in some cases three. But I am so glad that the AEW and ROH six-man titles are getting a divorce because like there's so much going on with the multi-band pictures here, and I don't want that just to die off. Like I like a lot of the trios that we have, and I want clarity around whether they're trios or tag teams, and all those trios can't become tag teams. Like that's just not realistic. So I am glad that maybe we're finally getting some more care put behind that. But this match was really, really fun. Ishii is such a fun like guy to plug and play into stuff like this too, because he just the Stone Pitbull. Caprice did a great job on commentary with this too, saying like it's not just like the way that he functions in the ring, it's like the inability to read his emotions because he just comes across as like this cold badass, and really, really good stuff. Really good stuff.
When Ishii is at his best, he does the best selling because it's like he's a video game final boss where you need to hit him like 1,001 times and then he finally sells something. It's like the bar only goes down slightly when you're kicking him and punching him and stuff, but then you hit him with a big move and it goes down slightly. He sells for a bit. He does the fire up spots great. The fighting spirit, man, he's just awesome. I love Ishii.
I have watched Royal Quest 3 about 640 times because the ZSJ Osprey match on that was incredible and so underrated. And they faced each other a million times, but like this version of Zack and this version of Osprey was like so special. The match before it was Shingo Takagi and Ishii, and they'd faced each other a couple times, and it was always very good, but something happened that was just magic on that outing. And part of it is what you were saying. The way that they were selling at and for each other was different than anything else on the card, was different than their previous matches, but they kind of both had that same thing. And watching them dig into it, a pleasure to watch. So some good stuff there and some great stuff heading into this. We get a recap of Thursday's Lights Out match between Diamante and Leyla Hirsch. We'll keep you posted injury-wise. She looked like she came out of that with a blown-up arm real fast, but what a match we got here. I was a little worried because it started kind of clumsy. We got the powerbomb through the table, which was awesome, but they went to set up like a Tree of Woe triple chair spots, and Diamante was having a tough time with these chairs. I don't know if they were plastic and that's why, because those aren't going to wedge, which is safety. So I never, ever, ever hate on sloppiness in execution for spots because of safety. You want Jericho falling onto a bunch of pillows? Yes, it looks stupid. I don't care. Keep your wrestlers safe. It's the most important thing in the world. But when you have a triple chair spot and the chairs won't stay, commentary did a good job because they knew what Leyla Hirsch was going for. She was trying to put her hands up like she was protecting herself from that triple chair spot, but it was just so obvious that she was trying to stabilize the chair for Diamante, and it really, not a lot of things take me out of it or bug me like that, but I was like, she's just blatantly holding the chair, and she had to, because otherwise the spot doesn't happen. But if you can get your hands up to protect you, you can get your hands up to push the chair away. It's the problem with that. And she fell out of that tree of woe so easily after that shot that it just went on so long and just got so truncated that unfortunately, like, what should have been really nasty just had no impact for me. But boy, oh boy, did that pick up right around when the tax came out. Leyla Hirsch, notably in different gear this time, she said, I ain't taking tax spots again in my regular gear. I'm putting pants on for this shit. We have the tax spot. We get a moonsault off the ladder at the end of this with a duct tape Diamante to the table. But we had a moonsault miss onto tax in this. So much stuff. We had a chancla with tax in it, where Leyla was tied up in the ropes and Diamante coming at her with that sandal with tax. My goodness, beating the hell out of her. They really stepped it up from what was the lights out match to a Texas death match. It got really brutal. It got really nasty. This was so much fun. You have Leyla Hirsch winning here, beating Diamante at her own game, which feels like what the story was going into this was, yeah, Leyla had all these wins over her, but can she beat Diamante at her own game? Last Thursday, not so much. Today, Diamante takes the loss here, but she's duct taped to the damn table. So what was she supposed to do in that situation? But they gave us everything. These ladies showed out. So many nerds are going to be crying about how violent it was, and I can't wait because they're a bunch of losers and I hate them. So there you go. I loved this. I had such a blast with this match. Again, we were talking about different things showing up on the card. This was very different than anything else tonight. What were your thoughts?
Yeah, I was gonna say that this match really picked up when Leyla Hirsch was able to hit the move she wasn't able to hit in the lights out matchup, where she does
Yes.
the kind of like a sunset flip, but she goes behind them and does the German suplex, and she did it onto the tags on Diamante, and then she does a moonsault onto the tags, and you could see the tags in her knee, and then Diamante pulls out the duct tape and wraps her up in it, and I love Diamante hitting her with a chocolate that has no effect on her at all. But then she says, wait, there's more. I'm sorry, that popped me so much. She said, wait, there's more.
It's so good.
Like she was Marlon Wayans in Scary Movie or Sean Wayans in Scary Movie, and then she pulls out the thumbtack chocolate. I was like, this is the next evolution to the Young Bucks thumbtack sneaker. This is great. And then she just hitting her, stabbing her in the head with the thumbtack sneaker. You got Leyla doing a Samoan drop off the apron into the barbed wire board. And then at one point she's trying to like get everything ready for the last spot, and she just sees the chair. She pulls the chair and just throws it at her. It was just so much just chaos to this that just made it a whole bunch of fun. And this was actually better than the lights out matchup, which that was our one question when we did our preview, when we talked about Ring of Honor last night. It was like, how were they going to outdo what they did, and were they going to kill themselves? And they nearly did with Leyla doing that moonsault off the ladder, and she didn't get any air on it. She just came down and hits her arm right on the ladder because Diamante is tied to taped up to the table. So man, these two women went out there, and I thought that Diamante really in particular had a great performance, like how she played to the crowd, how she just put her body on the line, had the creative, weapons, like I said before. So both ladies went out there, but Diamante, I wanted to give her extra praise because I thought that she would had one of her best performances that I've ever seen from her.
I agree with you. There's something that is so intimidating about someone being so calm in that environment. Like, no cartoonish reactions. No, I'm going to lay in violence on you. Just, this is just how I operate. It's such like a great and terrifying thing to grasp onto. I loved what we got from Diamante in this. I was so glad because she was really lost in the fold. She had the thing with Evilise going, and then Evilise exited the company, and she was just kind of lost there for a while and bouncing around. But it seems like she's kind of found back in a groove, which makes me very happy because I feel like she's a wonderful talent and has something different to offer than a lot of the other women there. But meet Normus, or as we call him in these points, Sir Loin, saying, shout out Arlington, Texas for acknowledging Meat. When is the Shane Taylor Brian Cage match? And if you can add Keith Lee and Wardlow, I'll go vegan for a week. This match was, as the kids say, a hoot. Well, we are going to circle back to that. If this is true, I'm going to go watch the scrum and quit the show.
Let's go.
Ian just mentioned Big Josh and the Bears during the scrum. In what context does Big Josh and his Bears come up?
That's awesome. That's awesome.
I'm convinced that Ian Riccaboni knows I say nice things about him and he did that exclusively to pop me. There's not a single person in the world outside of me who gives a shit about Big Josh. There are zero. Doink the Clown, maybe. None of them are as obsessed with Big Josh as I am. My God. What a beautiful, beautiful thing. But we are going to keep it going, guys. Thank you so much for all of your support today. I know this is a late one. I know this is a weird one. I know it's a product that not everybody is always watching, so we appreciate it so much. But we are going to continue. We moved from a women's Texas death match to a pure rules match. And my God, what a switch it was and what a match it was. But to get we're here, we of course had that proving ground match that was so outstanding, and very happy that Lee Moriarty lasted the 10 minutes. And if you have trouble lasting the 10 minutes, BlueChew.com, code FIGHTFUL.
We've been telling you guys about Blue Chew for years, and we ain't stopping anytime soon. That confidence, that performance, that edge that you're going to get in the bedroom and mentally when you check out BlueChew.com and the code FIGHTFUL. First shipment free. Yes, shipment. That's because you don't have to wait in line at the pharmacy, have any awkward conversations with doctors. You're questioned online, and if approved, this ships straight to your door. It excludes all the awkwardness. Now listen, so will that confidence. That's going to get rid of a lot of that awkwardness as well. Same active ingredients as Viagra and Cialis. You know it's going to work. They know it's going to work. And that's why they're willing to give you that first shipment free at BlueChew.com when you use that code FIGHTFUL. Take control. Handle your business. BlueChew.com and the code FIGHTFUL.
You know, there were so many jokes about MXM and how they finally came. And I was like, that's the easy way out. Okay, I'm going to save this ad read for later in the show. And here we are, a proving ground Blue Chew read. Nobody does it like me and SP3 out here. Okay, nobody. But holy heck, what a match we got from these two. We were saying that this was like a sleeper for match of the night if this is your style. What was so impressive to me about this was this crowd was super into it. And with Pure Rules, I love going to ROH live. I like watching Pure Rules matches live. With what Ian and Caprice add and being able to see stuff close up and really analyze matches like this, a lot of time with Pure Rules, I prefer to watch it on screen and at home. But this crowd was so into it. It did not feel like this was, sometimes the Pure Rules match gets used as like the down moment in the pay-per-view. This was not that at all. They both used their closed fist punches. They used their rope breaks. There was some really fun stuff in this, but Moriarty muscling up Wheeler Yuta for a crash down on the apron to the floor, only to have Yuta come back with the Fujiwara armbar, which was incredible. And we have reverse roll up with Moriarty using the ropes, which is legal because they were out of rope breaks. So he steals the pin at about just shy of 20 minutes into this. I had people on Twitter who were saying, oh, I understand what you're saying about Ian and Caprice. And thank God for them, because that rope break spot isn't conventional, right? Like right at the ending, right at the most crucial part of the match. They're so good at weaving the rules into their commentary instead of hitting you over the head constantly with like the pure rules style means blah, blah, blah. Like it is not this elementary spoon feeding thing. They just weave it in and out of the story with so much grace. But Lee Moriarty getting the win here. Fantastic match. I said it all week. I'll say it again. I feel like Wheeler Yuta looks so comfortable in ROH in a way that he doesn't look comfortable anywhere else in the world. Not saying he looks uncomfortable other places, saying he looks extra comfortable in this environment, especially those pure rules matches. And as a heel, you said yesterday, kind of like shades of Nigel McGuinness in there a little bit, like using those heel rules to your advantage as a heel is completely unique and special to what a pure rule style match is. We got all of that and more. And I love at the end when you have Wheeler Yuta physically putting the title on Lee Moriarty. He walked out of there very proud. He said he was working every day for this. Really special moment, it felt like, and well-deserved by Lee Moriarty. Thing is, we don't have a pure division SB3. There's nobody left. We had only Josh Woods, and he moved up to the main roster. So what do we do for Lee Moriarty? I don't want it to be a series of rematches with Wheeler, but what we got tonight, fantastic. What did you think of our pure match?
This was absolutely brilliant. This was splendid technical wrestling. You know we both love our techers. And boy, oh boy, did I just watch this match like 10 minutes into this match. I'm just like, Lee Moriarty's working like a Zack Sabre Jr. Like he's doing multiple submissions at one point he has like an arm bar. Then he transitions into like a head scissors. Then he starts grabbing at the legs and turning it into an ankle lock. Like this was like this is a compliment though. This is like a poor man's version of Bryan Danielson versus Zack Sabre Jr. from New Beginning at earlier this year. One of the best matches of the year. That was what we saw here, like a poor man's version of it. Not on the same quality, but definitely quality professional wrestling. These two guys know how to work this style. They use the rules to their advantage from like the first minute, because if we got the first rope break like a minute in when Lee tries to get the Border City stretch on Wheeler, and he gets the ropes, and he's like, a round of applause. He goes, round of applause for him. He's showing that cockiness that made him a 3-time pure champion. But then he really started taking things more seriously when he saw the game that Lee was trying to play. He was trying to beat him on the ground, beat him with the mat work, whether it be a roll-up, whether it be a submission. They just had so strong psychology throughout this matchup. They barely went outside. They did a couple like tope suicidas, but it was more focused on in the ring, going at it with multiple reversal, multiple counters. It was just so smartly worked. And in the end, Lee Moriarty using the rules to his advantage, using the rope. He goes for the rope, and you think he forgets that he doesn't have any rope breaks, but no, he's just using it for leverage to transition into the pin for the 1, 2, 3. This was great stuff. This is probably the best pure rules matchup that I've seen since the series between Wheeler Yuta and Daniel Garcia. And that's why I'm not too against if they want to run it back between these two guys, because they had great chemistry, and this was one of my favorite matches of the night. And I'm just so happy for Lee Moriarty. He like the 3 guys, I said it to you when we did our preview, the 3 guys that Bryan Danielson kind of pin marked as like the future recruits of the Blackpool Combat Club. We still haven't finished that story though. Just want to remind you guys, the 3 guys that he pinpoint was Wheeler Yuta, Daniel Garcia, and Lee Moriarty. And Lee was the only one of those 3 who hadn't had a title win, whether it be in ROH or AEW. And to give him this win here, it just felt like a big moment. And I was surprised, even though I predicted Lee to get the win here, and I thought that he deserved to get the win. I was very much surprised with how it happened, when it happened. And I was just like, man, I'm so happy right now, because Lee is someone that I interviewed way back when, before he signed with AEW. I felt like he was one of the best independent wrestlers out there, and he's still on the independents tearing it up. I got to talk to Darius Carter, who just recently had a match with him, and he was like basically praising Lee Moriarty because of how smart he is in the ring. And you saw it here in this matchup. He looks at it like it's like a science project, and he's just trying to break you down and see what type of way he can get a win. And it was so much that you saw it in this matchup, the essence of what makes Lee Moriarty a great professional wrestler. This was a great matchup between these two guys.
This was phenomenal. If it was your match of the night, I would not blame
It's up
you.
there. I got like 2 more matches. That's
it's
like
so hard.
It's so hard on this card,
Tonight,
which was the best match.
Yeah, and what a wonderful problem to have. But sounds like some good stuff coming out of the scrum. Red Velvet thanking Bryan Danielson for helping on the comeback, which is awesome. Nice. Many people in the chat also mentioning that Ian mentioned Big Josh. So shout out to Ian Riccaboni, because my God. It's just me and Ian out here. Big Josh stands, but stay tuned because we will include anything from the scrum that is relevant. I asked Jeremy for a couple of specifics, but I'm sure during the Tony Khan portion of things is when we will get into the juice of that scrum, which is awesome. So we move along here. Thank you guys so much for joining us. I love seeing the numbers go up as we get later into the night. It's dawn by SP3. It's closing in at 6 a.m. his time.
Yeah, I see the sun. The sun is up out of this window that's in this room.
Lord Almighty, committed. But we are getting into
I keep checking my phone too to see if my missus is being like, "You're too loud." It's like 6 a.m. in the morning here, but she hasn't messaged me yet, so we're doing well. Good. We're doing well so far.
Good. We're hoping she's deep in her REM cycles. We appreciate that you who are watching are not. Feel free to leave a thumbs up on this video. Get in those super chats if there's anything you want to talk about. We're getting into the meat of all the gold of what we got tonight. Starting, we had the tag team title defense earlier, but it's pretty much just title matches with a couple other things thrown in here on out. So let us know what you want to talk about. C. Delgado saying, all hail our forever champ. Still a lot of story left for her and Billie. Here's hoping the taping schedule keeps tonight's momentum going. Yes.
Yeah.
Especially blessings upon that last sentence. My God. But kind of what happened with Athena, the story starts with what happens here with Billie, Starkz, and Red Velvet. This match was a blast, but we talked about this a little bit at the top of the show. We did not see Red Velvet coming out with a W here. We have no problem with that, but kind of the consensus between both of us was, why hadn't she defended the title a single time before this? This was rough, but I love the electric chair to the top of the turnbuckle that we get early in this, and the sell from Red Velvet is excellent. Starkz tying her up in that tree of woe. We get Velvet grabbing a DDT for a quick 2 count and a running knee to the back of the head in the ropes. Really good stuff there, especially with Queen Aminata also using that big running knee. I kind of like that they both have latched onto that. But my favorite vocal moment of the night was Billie Starkz saying, "I'm going to kill you," and Riccaboni saying, "You'll go to jail if you do that."
Ian was great. He was great on the commentary the whole night, but that might have been the highlight of my night too.
Beautiful. Gotta love pro wrestling, but a flipping face plant. Essentially, it's a natural selection here. Gives Velvet the pin and the win here. I loved what we got in this match. I was very shocked by the results. It makes me more frustrated with the booking leading up to the match, but optimistic about maybe where this story is going. And I was glad that they did not sit in the fake injury thing for too long, because that was not my favorite part of how Billie won the title. So I was glad that they didn't lean into that too hard, but hell of a match. Red Velvet has come so far. Like, seeing her go from almost this Darby Allin style of doing some outside spots where you're like, whoa, I'm nervous she's actually going to hurt herself, to what she's been able to transform into now has been an incredible journey, and her growth has been so evident. Her comeback from injury has been excellent. Makes sense if she's working with the best wrestler to ever do this. Sorry, Nigel McGuinness. I hope you're not watching. It's late. But Bryan Danielson being someone as a guiding force in this is just tremendous. So really like what we got out of this match. We kind of already covered the negatives about the booking leading into it, but I think there's so many positives coming out of it for what this could mean for the Minion side of things. I think Billie is going to be a little pissed that Athena got to keep her gold and that she didn't. And we're going to be heading in to that. I think that could be a really fun way to kick off the Max era, as you and I talked about already this week. But what did you think of our women's TV title match? I thought it was a blast, but I was stunned by the results.
Yeah, I was very surprised by the result as well. It was a good matchup. Once again, back-to-back matchups. People I've interviewed winning gold. Two young black talents winning gold, and I've had the honor of interviewing both of them. So I was very much hitting the True Hill Heat chat. See, look at this THH alum winning championship gold on Ring of Honor. Let's go.
Look, you want to win gold in ROH, you got to go on the True Heel Heat podcast. That's what I've heard. That's
Just
what
saying.
I know.
If you want a big money contract or you want to win gold, you get interviewed by True Hill Heat. See, Billie, you could have had it. I did ask you before you got signed, but hey, then you had to lose the TV title.
Listen, Hotshot. All right, all you had to do,
saying.
you wanted to retain your title.
You know,
all you had to do, 30 minutes, 30 minutes with SP3, and you keep your title. That's it. No bumps, zero bumps.
I'm very happy for Red Velvet, and I like the narrative overall of what we saw later in the night with Athena. And I kind of got the narrative after that match is that Athena never wins her title defenses in the same fashion. She uses some type of like cheating way. She uses the O face, but she also used the cross face. She used that weird submission on Billie at Final Battle. She beat, she uses all different types of way, but Billie made the mistake. Billie, even though she's very confident or overconfident as the world television champion, she had tried to use the same way she won the title to win this matchup here, and Red Velvet was ready for it. Red Velvet then used it against her by faking like she was knocked out after standing up after the little kick to the head, and then that was how she took advantage and got the victory here. So I like the narrative of it that Billie was very overconfident, thinking that she learned everything she needed to learn from our minion Overlord, but she didn't learn the first rule is never try the same trick twice, and that's what cost her. So I like that narrative overall, and this was a very good matchup here.
Do you think they can control their narrative?
I don't know. I don't have a controller.
No super kicks. No Canadian destroyers.
That was her first mistake. She hit a super kick.
That's it. She could not control her narrative. That's the problem. That's the issue here. So sorry, Billie. All you had to do was control your narrative in an interview with SP3 and it all would have been settled, but she didn't do that. So
two simple things.
That's it, guys. Get in those super chats. Leave a thumbs up on this video. We are continuing to plow through our Death Before Dishonor post show. Great show overall. So much fun to be had tonight. We're hoping that momentum sustains throughout this product so that every Thursday when you can join SP3 and I on the ROH TNA post show, check that out if you would. We have more fun things to talk about instead of complaining about where are our champions and why doesn't this make sense. So my heart is singing that Ian Riccaboni keeps bringing up Big Josh in the scrub. Like there's zero people outside of me that care about that guy. So it just warms my heart. But we are going to continue through our review. We thank you guys so much for watching. Subscribe to this YouTube channel as well. Got to stay in touch. We've got so many freaking shows, man. We got Grapsity tomorrow. We got the Collision post show tomorrow. There is going to be a Collision post show on Fightful Select. I am going to be on there with Alex Pulowski. We got so excited about FTR and MXM that we're going to throw that on. We might do it after Battle of the Belts. We might do it watch alongside with Battle of the Belts. We will keep you guys posted. But you and I kind of talked about this Dark Order and Dustin Rhodes match, Dustin Rhodes Von Erichs match, as something that could have been on the pre-show, maybe something that could have gotten booted to Thursday television. I guess technically it can't because it's setting up something on Collision. I kind of agreed with you. It wasn't like there was anything that wasn't really good about this. It was just such a stacked card, and we were just getting into like. We went death match, pure match, women's TV title match, and I think this was almost put here to be that like breath of relief on the card match. Like they do that in AEW all the time too, where it's like either something that's like a plunder match or it's an insane spot match. That's always where like Sting and Darby were for a while. Or like
this is the spot this year. This is the spot of an AEW pay-per-view that would have a Jericho match. So I much prefer this. I will give them that. I'll give them credit for that. That I much prefer this over Jericho
than the Learning Tree, which that is a low bar to clear. But this in a vacuum was a very fun match, and there's a lot of really cool work that was done in it. Dustin Rhodes moving way better than he should at the age that he's at with the career that he's had. But it was just that this was on a long card and in the middle of some really intense stuff that it just kind of was more like if your mind was going to kind of wander elsewhere, this was the match that happened in. And it's just because of the types of stakes that were on it and who was in it. This felt like it was a hometown crowd pop for the Von Erichs, which is perfectly fine. The Dark Order leaned it a little more heelish. Very nice to see. I loved Evil Uno's gear today. That was fun. But nice to see them in action, man. Like, I feel like Alex Reynolds is so underrated, and I feel like the Dark Order in general is, but him especially, like, he just makes everything crisp and really cool looking. But I loved the suplex into the front face lock that we got out of Evil Uno in this, but ultimately the claw goes on Rhodes, hits the Shattered Dreams into the final reckoning to finish Alex Reynolds. And then post-match Shibata comes out for some reason to praise the Von Erichs. I don't know if there's history I don't know about, but I'm not like a Von Erich sicko. I didn't even see the movie because I'm a bad wrestling fan, but I had no idea why Shibata came out. I was so confused.
They had Carmi from the Bear in the movie, and he was Kerry Von Erich, even though he's like 3 feet shorter than Kerry Von Erich, which was kind of weird. But he was good in his performance. Other than that, if you just ignore that part, but no, great movie. But this match was simply a solid kind of house show-esque trios matchup. Yeah. This was the pop the local crowd with the Texas own Von Erichs and Dustin Rhodes. Dustin looked really good in this matchup. This is probably one of the best performances I've seen from Dustin this year. He's always very solid and very fine in the ring, but this one was a very good performance. He fed off that hot crowd in Arlington, and the Dark Order were the ideal kind of comedy heels to go against like the hometown boys here. So it made sense for Dustin and the Von Erichs to get the win here. I'm very interested to see who gets the win for the ROH 6-man tag team titles, because I would love for Undisputed Kingdom to win that matchup, but I can easily see Dustin and the Von Erichs getting the win on Battle of the Belts. So yeah, the Shibata though cameo was very weird. It was just very weird. They tried to explain why they were doing that, and apparently Shibata came out after Ring of Honor went off the air on Thursday, and he tried to get the Von Erichs to teach him the Iron Claw. It's literally what I do to my kids sometimes, and when I'm playing wrestling with them, you just grab their forehead and you squeeze Shibata. It's not anything really scientific about it. I just want to let you know. I could have taught you this. I could have done it on my son, and he would have showed you that it really doesn't hurt that much.
It's Jim Carrey and Liar Liar does it. Like, that's how basic this is. Okay, but C. Delgado saying, you clearly have influenced E and Kate. Well, yes, I have, because of my lashes. Thank you so much. Did I tell you about this? Did I brag about this on our other show?
I don't think so.
I got the influencer rate when I went to get my lashes done because I had 10,000 followers on
look at you.
Twitter. So the thought of being an influencer makes me want to vomit, but I've just been telling everybody they're under the influence of my lashes. So
ever since I started doing the show with Kate, I had more people follow me. I'm gonna give it to Kate for that, because she's an influencer. She's an influencer, and she's influencing people to follow me. And they're just really disappointed that I'm not reporting any news. And then I randomly have tweets about like power and stuff like that. So.
Well, you've all been influenced by me and my lashes. I did tell my stylist that maybe wrestling fans are not like the ideal demographic for like lash extensions, but it's fine. You should follow SP3 at True Heel SP3 TRU Heel P3. Give him a follow. We're working our way through this ROH match. We will keep you posted on anything going on in the scrum. But for now, we move to our TV title match where Atlantis Jr. retains against Johnny TV, Lio Rush, Shane Taylor, Brian Cage, and Lee Johnson. Gotta be honest, whenever I looked at my notes, I was like, Roosh wasn't in this match. Lio Rush. I was confusing the heck out of myself when I was reading these back, but we do have a frog splash that gets rid of Shane Taylor first, which surprised me. I'm going to real quick run down the eliminations, then we can talk more about the match, but the big shot drop gets the elimination of Lio Rush. We get a back in and power bomb flying chuck combo to get rid of Lee Johnson. The drill claw gets rid of Johnny TV. And then the drill claw is loaded up, but Atlantis reverses it into a cradle to retain his title. The sequencing of this did surprise me. If you're going to set up Lio Rush versus Shane Taylor, who's complaining?
No one.
Anyone?
That was probably the most surprising, that Shane Taylor was out first and Lio Rush hit the final hour on him. I mean, everybody hit their big move on Shane Taylor, so I did protect Shane Taylor. But yeah, I was quite surprised that Lio Rush was the one that pinned him. And I literally, once he got that pin over Shane Taylor, I was like, why do I get the feeling Lio Rush is going to be the next out? And then the big shot drop happened. And I was like, oh, that's why.
There it is. There you go. There you go. Did want to also make a note before we move on from this. Atlantis Jr. getting the win. This was a very fun match. I just don't have a ton to say about it. I don't feel like anything definitive got set up out of it. Maybe Shane Taylor's going after that world title instead, but there wasn't anything. It was fun. The work was good. I was surprised it came down to Cage and Atlantis Jr., but other than the elimination sequence, I wasn't too... there's not a ton to comment on from my end here, unless there's anything you wanted to add.
Yeah, I think the only thing maybe is something with Brian Cage and Johnny TV, because Johnny TV used Talia and he kicked her in between the legs to kick Cage in between the legs, which was a choice. That was interesting, and them working together, because I know like in real life they're really close friends, so that was fun to see them kind of work together as a team in this matchup. But yeah, nothing that really kind of noteworthy really happened. Atlantis Jr. kind of got the only one pinfall, and it was the winning pinfall, but it wasn't even like a strong victory. He just reversed and got
just a cradle up. Yeah, just a cradle. Which I think, like, I feel like on ROH pay-per-views, there's usually one insane multi-man match. I feel like it was smart not to make this a ladder match. We've seen so many ladder matches between Money in the Bank and the last AEW pay-per-view. Let's lay off that stipulation for a while. These guys didn't even need it with the mix of guys that you had in there. Lio Rush is always so impressive. Atlantis Jr., incredible too, but kind of felt like he had to retain just because we haven't really seen him on ROH TV defending yet. So give him something to sink his teeth into before he loses.
And once again, Tony Khan deserves a tip of the cap because he put the Bloods and the Crips together, because we got AAA Cruiserweight Champion Commander in the first matchup, and we had a CMLL talent in Atlantis Jr. in this matchup. We've come a long way from the Bloods and the Crips not being able to be on the same show together. So it's nice that Tony Khan and Kendrick Lamar have brought all the Bloods and Crips in the wrestling world and the music world together.
I'm going to just assume it's Rocky Romero because I think he's the purveyor of every interpromotional relationship that you could possibly have. It might extend to rap. I have no idea. It might extend to every walk of life you could possibly think of. He might be able to settle it between Kendrick and Drake. Who knows?
That's who K-Dot called for the pop out. He was like, Rocky being in Los Angeles. He was like, yo, Rocky, I need your help, yo. So
perfect. Perfect. I love it. DNC Digital, who's always so wonderful to us. We always thank you for the support. Saying congrats to Red Velvet, good friend who I met at Mission Pro Wrestling. Her sister is actually the dog mom to one of my grandpups, basically family. Look, there's no better bond than through doggos. My goodness. So that's awesome. I love that. And we're very happy for her too. Very, very happy for her too. She's worked really hard, clearly, because it is showing up all over the place. But we're making our way through here, man. We have 2 matches left, and they are both your world title matches. We've got Athena and Queen Aminata to talk about. And then, of course, Mark Briscoe and Roddy. But before we do, I did also want to acknowledge that we had Ref Aubrey on this show. She's the first woman to referee in ROH, which I think is really, really awesome. And just something that made me smile because of the fact that she's great at what she does, and that this has become such a women-centric brand in general is so wild to me as an ROH fan, because it was never that. And the fact that we get Aubrey to be a part of that legacy is very cool. And did make me think too, like, I am certainly not one to speak about representation from a race perspective, but there was some incredible Black talent, and we have a lot of Black champions on ROH as well. And if there was anything you wanted to add to that, certainly no pressure to add. But it is something that is definitely of note. This is a very diverse roster, from luchadors to whatever, but like the Black talent really showing out tonight.
Yeah, like I said earlier, seeing Lee Moriarty and Red Velvet win championship gold back to back, and then we close off, the show with the semi-main event with Athena versus Queen Aminata, which 2 Black talents, so talented, and Queen Aminata, who's come into this company just a couple of the end of last year, and how much she's grown and improved and given this big spot and having the best match I think that I've seen from her in AEW and ROH. It says a lot about how much growth and how ROH is focusing. I don't think ROH has ever been this much diversity, from the women's side to having Black talent like this in a big prominent position. You had the luchadors, the Mexican talent on this card, so this was a very diverse card, and this is another credit to what I've been preaching on multiple platforms is it's all about sometimes us fans speaking up, because Tony Khan legitimately had a diversity problem. And, credit to Big Swole for being the first talent who came out and just had the balls to kind of say it. And, she got some backlash from Tony because of that. But then it was also on the fans to be like, no, that's not how you respond. How you respond is putting your Black talent over and giving them prominent spots. And we got Swerve as an AEW world champion, but to see it come over to ROH and how ROH has grown in that way, I think that's kind of the best thing that Tony Khan has done with the brand, is making it much more diverse than it's ever been.
I remember Will Washington, when he was still at Fightful, saying it really kind of kick-started a conversation of representation versus diversity. And not just that you hired Black wrestlers, but how they're presented on your show, and how they're treated from an on-screen standpoint. And it was something that in ROH, and certainly feel free to correct me if I'm off base here, but that was something I really liked about ROH kind of right before it shut down, was you had Black talent like Jonathan Gresham, who was just one of the best technical wrestlers in the world, who happened to be Black. And then you had STP that was for the culture. And then with Hispanic talent, you had LSG, who was just a really cool Hispanic guy. And you also had luchador proper or whatever. So there was diversity within the diversity that I found really cool in ROH before it shut down. And now it seems like that is still present here. And also now we're getting the women's side of it. And that just, it just makes my heart sing when so many people in the world can look at a single wrestling promotion and see someone that looks like that doing really cool shit. That's awesome. That's awesome. So
and we can't stop here. We got to get it more in AEW. We got to get it more
everywhere,
across the board in all of professional wrestling.
Hell yeah! And you can't take your foot off the gas, because the car will stop. The car will stop. But we're going to talk about 2 amazing Black women's talents right now, which rules. Almost 3,000 of you sickos watching right now. We appreciate you so much for sticking with us. It is 6:20 a.m. SP3's time. My goodness. The sun is coming up. He's going to make an omelet in a little bit. But for now, we're going to talk about Athena and Queen Aminata. They fooled me. I thought for sure Athena was going to retain after what happened with Billie. But when I saw this entrance for Athena, I was like, is this the I'm dropping, so I'm getting the big time entrance? Because they give her this very elaborate package about dropping these porcelain trash hussies, and it is the the only pay-per-view style entrance on this entire card. And I was like, are they swerving me right now? Is she about to drop in Texas? But of course, Athena from Texas, built out of Texas. All of the questions about her knee that we've been so worried about all week kind of went away when she stomped. And it was just this miracle that her injury had been healed. And just days ago, we saw it on camera. She was falling down. So just, I don't know if she got stem cells or what, but like it really is a miraculous injury recovery that has happened. And I'm so thankful that she was able to conquer today, because it's ridiculous she even had to work this match in the first place with her bipolar leg. My God. But really incredible stuff. Queen Aminata is such a star, and I'm always so impressed when people kind of earlier in their careers, which I think she is. I didn't know too much about her on the indies before this. Her match pacing is unbelievable. Like and that's part of her presence, but she knows when to slow down, and she does so just by command, like by authority of who she is as a woman in the ring, is how she controls pacing of her matches. And it feels so organic and so unique to her in that. But commentary said this, and you mentioned this, SB3, Athena never wins the same way twice. And that is showing up all over this match. We have this really cool power bomb into Hurricane Rana, where Aminata is trying to deliver the power bomb, and Athena Hurricane Rana is out of it. Get that massive knee from Queen Aminata. We get an air raid crash for a false finish. We get them staggering around and trading forearms, but the pile driver from Athena does a ton of damage. I didn't love the ending from a taste perspective. I understand it from a wrestling perspective, and it was well done. So it's not a bad ending from the perspective of it doesn't make wrestling sense or it was poorly executed. I just feel like with all the punishment these two gave each other, and Athena delivering a pile driver, this distracted referee spot where Lexi slips her the mic to clock Queen Aminata to get the win, I'm just like, the pile driver hurt more than that. Like, maybe it was supposed to soften her up. Like, I get that, but it was not my favorite ending. However, Lexi is really good at her job. It makes wrestling sense. The fact that MIT had to help her and nobody helped Billie Starkz is another wrinkle in this story. So I completely get why it was there. But it wasn't my favorite way, but I can't say it was a bad way to go about business. Fantastic match. Queen Aminata already felt like a star, but feels like an even bigger one now. Adore this. What did you think?
Really enjoyed this one. This was right up there with Lee and Yuta for like the match of the night, along with the main event. Those three matches are the matches I was talking about earlier, kind of like on the same level to me. But I really enjoyed Queen Aminata, just psychology wise, the certain things she was doing that was just like chef's kiss, like her with hitting the air raid crash and then putting all her body weight on the shoulders of Athena. That really convinced me that Athena wasn't going to kick out, even though I kind of knew she was at that point. And me too, I would have said that you kind of should have went for the O-face after the power driver on the steel steps. You don't need Billie and Red Velvet to come out. That could have been the finish of the matchup. But also I'm of the other thinking that her kicking out of the tombstone on the steel steps did put over Queen Aminata, because I was like, okay, what the hell is it going to take now to beat
put her
like,
away?
Yeah, like that was a big moment of the matchup, and that got the crowd kind of behind Aminata, even though they were very pro Athena being from Texas. And I like the fact that it takes always Lexi. Lexi is her ace in the hole, and Lexi doing the intro for her, the big entrance was definitely like the most pay-per-view worthy, big stage worthy entrance that we got on the night, coming out with the big head and everything too. That was great stuff. And then the intro that she gave her, and then even Aminata kind of giving Lexi a nudge before she's introduced and stuff, showing that cockiness to her. And I just love how Aminata, she's another one that went to the Britt Baker school of finding the camera. She always knows where the camera's at, and just her facial expressions are that of a person that's been in this business for decades. Like Aminata, this was her best performance, her best matchup. But Athena, just time and time again, they ain't nobody better than pay-per-view Athena. There's pay-per-view, there's ROH pay-per-view Athena, and then there's Johnny Takeover. Like that's why I compared this
I
to
love that.
an ROH takeover, because she is the Johnny Gargano of these ROH pay-per-views. She always steps up. She always puts on one of, if not the very best matchup. She's one of the best big match performers in the game today. And Athena, in my eyes, is the best women's wrestler in the world. And this was proof of that, where she can take someone who doesn't have a lot of experience, but she can give them their best matchup on the stage. And I felt like the finish, even using the microphone and the O-face, it protects, in the end, it protects Aminata, and shows that Athena had to pull out all the stops to beat her. And then I loved also the best moment of the crowd of the night was after this matchup with the forever.
Yes, so good. So good. Luis, our wonderful moderator, saying money's for the Aminata driver 91. That's actually exactly where I was going to take this conversation next.
The Takagi driver. I was like, whoa.
The fact that Will has been so reluctant to do that driver made it crazy when Aminata hit it. I almost faded. Yeah, a little different variation, but still just incredible. And it really did feel like the story of I have to cheat because there's nothing I can do that can put this woman away came across. Even if it wasn't my favorite way to go about it, like inarguably a great story to tell. And the fact she needed MIT to do it, and the fact that she needed Alexi to do it, makes the Billie Starkz relationship all the more interesting. So some incredible stuff there. I really, really liked it. The chat saying Athena versus Mercedes. When someone said on Twitter yesterday, and I agree, the Royal Rampage should have been a women's Rampage this year.
Ooh.
And I said Athena should have won it to face Mercedes.
Wouldn't have mind that.
Would have been better than Darby Allin winning. Sorry for the spoiler, but Darby Allin winning the Royal Rampage in the same live taping that he called out Jack Perry and ended Blood and Guts for a title shot, and that title is absolutely insane to me.
Because this dude didn't even do it in the right order. Let me tell you, Darby, if you're watching, you were supposed to be an arsonist. The arsonist that is holding people hostage. You ask for the money first and then the airplane. You don't ask for the title match first and then tell them to quit. You tell them to quit first. Focus on the task at hand is to get the money and tell them to quit first. And then you ask for the airplane to escape. And then apparently he got both of those things. He's on the airplane escaping, and he's also telling them to not come after him as well because he gets a world title match. Like, it's like you got a world title match, a TNT title match, and you got them to quit. God damn, Darby, this is like arsonist. He did it in the wrong order, but man, he accomplished a lot as an arsonist.
He really, really has. He really, really has. And I agree with you that the sequencing is way off for several freaking reasons, but we'll save those grapes for another day, and we'll get into Mark Briscoe versus Roddy. This is your main event for the night, so if you have any more super chats, please send them in now before we get out of here. Also reminding you to subscribe to FightfulSelect.com. So much going on there. I was in the Discord before this, talking during the 0 hour a little bit, doing a little Q&A over on the ROH channel, chatting at some people. Discord's a really great place to hang out if you aren't loving the vibe that's on X, Twitter, whatever you want to call it. Also, you get tons of added content. You'll have me and Alex Pulowski behind the paywall tomorrow doing our Collision review. We always do pay-per-view post shows when we're not on the main. That'll be the case for SummerSlam as well. And of course, all the scoops you could possibly want. That Discord has an Ask SRS channel, which he is alarmingly responsive on. And there's also an Ask SRS show behind the paywall. So much value there. Best $5 in the biz. It's also how we get paid. So we appreciate when you stay subscribed to the summer. We know inflation is through the roof. We appreciate when you put your $5 behind FightfulSelect.com. Very much appreciated. Leave a thumbs up. We're going to the main event. Kind of miss Mark Henry with that line, I'm not going to lie, but we got Mark and Roddy, and I expected them to beat the hell out of each other, and boy, howdy, did they do exactly that. Mark ultimately retaining here with the froggy bow, but man, oh man, we get so much going on, including the J Driller being broken up and the Kingdom with Mike Bennett getting a belt shot toward the ends of this. The sick kick giving a strong and the conglomeration room to chase off the Kingdom, which I thought was a really well agented spot in this, but they beat the shit out of each other. We got blood. We got this backbreaker into an angle slam that was insane. There was so much, and it was all hard hitting, and it was all fantastic. Loved that super angle slam that was in this as well. So much fun. Felt like a main event. The story was not really there in the sense that it wasn't built out. It hasn't been built out on anything in this like decade. I'll put it that way. Like they did a good job playing off of history. Playing off of history and telling a story to me are not the same thing. But the video packages were great. They're well produced. Ian and Caprice all night, like mentioning that they'd been in the ring like 50 times together or something, but never one-on-one for a title before. Like they did as good of a job as they could, but they coupled this pay-per-view together on the men's side. Let's be real. So didn't have the same impact in that regard, but I do appreciate that they at least put an effort around it in bringing up that history, and that both performers really played into this. Like you had Roddy just putting Mark down and saying that he'd never be what his brother was and that he would never be a single star. And Mark saying, like, you'd always treated me like that. You always treated me like the little brother. I'm going to kick your ass. And then he did. So that was fun. I've got an older sister. I know what it's like to want to kick your sibling's ass. Come on now. So
yes.
This was really hard hitting, really fun. Roddy strong, just like, what a second win to his career after the weirdest little NXT run in the history of the world. He comes over here. He's doing next strong comedy stuff, and we're having fun with it. But like, since he turned back serious, one of the just most consistent delivering wrestlers in the world. Like he has not had an even really good match. He's just been great and always is. Absolutely adored this. Such a fun main event. Last call for super chats on it, but we're going to let SP3 take us home on this one. What did you think?
Oh, this was an excellent main event in my eyes. This was very much 2000s, 2010 Ring of Honor World Title matchup. Like you got that from the story at play, where this is another, like, it was, they bookended with basically those type of era matches, because this was a type of like 2010s ROH World Title matchup where they didn't build it too much going into the show, but it's two guys that are gonna be over with the crowd. Like you said, Roderick strong, man. Just the way he paces his matchup, the way he moves. He can move fast, but he can also slow it down and do the stronghold and do the different submissions. He does all types of backbreakers and gut busters. When he hit that last sick kick, I actually bid on it. I was like, that was a great near fall, because I've seen him win with that sequence so many times. And even the crowd bid on the Kingdom getting involved with the title belt hit, and just getting everybody involved. They had this crowd that had been there for a lot of them for 4.5 hours. They were still on their feet. They were still into every single moment of this matchup. And then Mark Briscoe, man, like I said it to you yesterday on our ROH post show, he is the perfect combination of comedy and badass babyface that you just want to rally behind him. And like I said, you've been mentioning what time it is for me, and it was hard for me through like these last stretch of matches, but Mark Briscoe gave me the energy to be on this post show, because his performance was just so it so resonated with me. Like, he's bleeding buckets. That cut that he had was ridiculous. He's got the crimson mask, like he's Terry Funk in the 80s, and he's just
I love
fighting
that
through it.
comparison.
He's getting the whole crowd behind him, and they just are just on every moment of the matchup. Every punch that he's in, they're getting riled up, they're getting more excited for him. So he is just the perfect baby face to be the male face of the ROH brand. If this is going to be the start of a new era after this excellent top to bottom show, Mark Briscoe and Athena are the two faces of the company that you should push it behind. If this is going to be on Max, even though I would love to see Mark be used more on AEW, but him being Ring of Honor champion hasn't really changed how he's used on AEW. He's used on AEW even more. I heard he has a matchup on Collision this week. He's going to have 3 matches in a week after he did Blood and Guts and then a bloody 20-minute main event on a pay-per-view, and then he's going to be in a trios matchup with the conglomeration tomorrow on AEW television. He's just he might be one of the best workers and most consistent and reliable workers that Tony Khan has on his payroll. Mark Briscoe deserves the world, and he deserves to be Ring of Honor World Champion, and this was proof positive of it. And one final note, I love the fact he won with the froggy bow, because you don't want to have him always have to use the J Driller, and you had the big J Driller spot where he kicked out at 1, which that was the moment that was like, oh, I have all the energy in the world to do this show at 6 a.m. I have all the energy. If he has all the energy to kick out at 1, don't disrespect my brother. I ain't going to even give you a 2 count. I have all the energy to do this show.
If he could do that and have 57 kids to raise, like the amount of energy that man has, I can't even handle it. But it is cool that they almost reverse engineered. Like, we're getting this match and it's more kicking off this story with the conglomeration in the Undisputed Kingdom. And it's a weird way of telling a story, but I don't hate it. Like, it feels like we're leading to something in that regard. Thank you so much for this, Monies, for your devotion to the grind. Thanks, guys. Well, I definitely appreciate it. I am very appreciative of SP3. The sun is coming up over where he's at, and he's still putting in that time. He's not running from the grind. He would use the Tiger Driver if it came down to it. I just know that about you, bro. I just
have
know.
a killer instinct.
But that is our Death Before Dishonor post show. We thank so many of you for tuning into us. I'm looking at the numbers, and there's like 3,000 of you watching us at 20 of 2 Eastern. We appreciate it so much. Any coverage from the scrum, Jeremy's going to be pumping out articles the rest of this. So that's on the free Fightful website for you. I'm excited, man. I'm excited about what we got tonight. I hope they sustain the momentum. We've got these planned tapings. That's a really good start. So we will take that as it is. And there's so much wrestling on this weekend, guys. You're going to have Collision tomorrow. CMLL is on. You got the G1 going on. You got Bad Dude Tito versus Josh Barnett at GCW Bloodsport. Love this wrestling season that we're in. But SP3, before we get out of here, tell the good people where they could find you after you wake up.
You can find me on the Twitter machine at TrueHeelSP3. I will not be staying up to watch the G1, but I will do
Coward.
like I did. I know I'm a coward. I will do like I did last Sunday, where I watch it and I will put my thoughts on that Twitter machine. But you can also find me on the True Heel Heat Wrestling YouTube channel. We have our flagship podcast, not tomorrow morning because I need to sleep, but it's going to be on Sunday at 11:05 a.m. Eastern Time. Myself, Miss Chrissy Love, True Jaw Josh will be talking about This Week in Wrestling. We'll be talking about Ring of Honor. We'll be talking about the G1, AEW, Bobby Lashley and MVP leaving WWE, everything in the professional wrestling world we talk about on the flagship. So True Heel Heat YouTube channel, and check out me and Kate and see how much we got wrong or right on the Ring of Honor Death Before Dishonor preview.
Absolutely. Please head over to True Heel Heat. They do great work over there. Chrissy also just like one of the most underrated women's voices in the space too. Has so much incredible energy, and I just love her takes and the way she presents herself. She's just the best. So all the love to her and that whole crew. But you can find me at Miss Kate Fabe on social media. doing some different stuff on Instagram if you want to follow me there. We're switching it up a little bit. I'm in my influencer era now, right? I got to capitalize so that I can get more free stuff. But
My lashes.
we'll get you there. We'll get you there. You're going to be getting free lashes in no time, SP3. But MSK on social media, here on Fightful every Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday with your NXT ROH with this guy post show and a SmackDown post show. Usually this Friday. This week it was Will, different Grapsody guy, Phil, and Alexis Cardoza. And then Mondays I also do the Sour Graps Raw review. And Wednesdays at the Mark Order podcast, talking all things All Elite. So you got two people that are not scared of the grind, bruv, with you today. We thank you so much for tuning in. This is a pleasure for us to do. We both have so much love for this brand. So tonight are very special and we appreciate it. Have a safe and wonderful rest of your wrestling weekend. It's time for me to go to bed. I'm getting my words mixed up now. So we're out of here. Take care. Stir it up.